Hi, everybody. I'm here today to discuss an interview I saw on the Breakfast Club a few weeks ago where Charlemagne and DJ Envy were interviewing Ebony K. Williams about her sperm donor choice. I wanted to answer the question of why more women are choosing to use a sperm donor as opposed to creating children in the context of a traditional relationship. My name is Aisha Jenkins, and I partner with women looking to conceive and have children on their own as a solo parent. There were three things that I wanted to cover with this conversation. One, it's the fertility conversations that we're not having with our young people. Two, it is about how do you go about choosing a donor? And then three, I wanted to talk about the lack of Black donor sperm, because there is an obvious and prevalent situation where we don't have enough Black sperm donors. So first, if you could subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share this video out with people who are interested in knowing more about using and choosing a sperm donor. So let's go ahead and get into it. Conversations that we're not having with our young people regarding fertility, these are conversations that we should be having during our annual appointments. And this goes for men as well as women, because it's not only egg quality that kind of goes down with age, there's also sperm quality that goes down with age. And the fertility industry being male dominated, we don't talk about that enough, but I'm gonna stay in my lane. As a woman, each year I go for an annual appointment. And when I was younger, the conversations would be around, what's your form of birth control? Are you sexually active? And here's some pills, here's a condom, go and be great, right? And I think we need to shift that conversation just a little for people as they get older and further into their 20s. Around 27, 28, we should be having the conversation about family planning and fertility. We should be running fertility panels as just part of the status quo of your annual gynecological checkup. And so this is a conversation that needs to be had on both the doctor, the OBGYN side, as well as the patient side. Doctors need to start asking young women about, their family planning, if they're thinking about having children, if they're undecided. I think by the time you get into your late 20s, you've been having regular gynecological visits. And so you will probably know if you have fibroids, if you have endometriosis, if polycystic ovarian syndrome is a thing. And these are all conditions that can impact a person's fertility down the line. So we need to be having questions about how this could impact my fertility, and then what are some things that I can do now at 26, 27, 28 to help protect my fertility moving forward. That's on the doctor side. On the patient side, we need to be asking the questions, what does my fertility numbers tell you? Can we run a fertility panel? I have these fibroids. Will fibroids impact my ability to have children in the future? What are some things I can do to combat the negative impacts of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome? What about my endometriosis? What can I do to keep the inflammation at bay? Right? So these are questions that we should be having with our medical practitioners when we go for that annual GYN appointment. And so I do know if you're not comfortable having these intimate conversations, that it could be hard to even open up the topic for discussion. I do have a conversation prep guide that's available at starttofinishmotherhood.com that you can download, and you can use that as a checklist to prepare for any tough conversations you're going to have, be it with your doctor, be it with family members talking about your choice to become a parent solo. You have this prep guide that will help you step by step figure out who your audience is for this conversation, and then how to approach that conversation with your medical doctor. Now, so that is the fertility conversations that we're not having, but we should start having those conversations. The other thing that Ebony brought up was choosing a sperm donor. Now, choosing a sperm donor is a whole other experience unto itself. And I will tell you, I did the same thing as Ebony did. I picked a bank, I sat down at my computer, and I put in some criteria to choose a donor. Now, unlike Ebony, who got back 2 options, I got back 6 options. And this was back in 2012 or 2013, where I was choosing a sperm donor. And I was looking for a Black donor that was of a certain height, that had a clean medical history. And when I executed my search, I ended up with 6 donors. I also wanted a donor that was open ID. And open ID just means that when my child turns 18, the bank would facilitate communication or will give me contact and identifying information about the donor. And that is for the sole purpose of the child to go and meet the donor perhaps and ask whatever questions they have. So that was important to me. And in the single mother by choice or the solo mom community, that is kind of standard practice. Ideally, you do want to get an open ID donor. So when I entered in open ID, I got back 2 donors. And I did not want my options to be that limited. So I backed out of that search and I started again. Now, being a Black person, I know that brown, Black is a spectrum. And if I look at the darker end of the spectrum for someone who does not identify on paper as African American, I could still end up with a child that is a Black child to society. And so that's essentially what I did. I looked for a donor that was dark brown, that had brown eyes and had kinky hair. And I ended up with an individual that was in the African diaspora. And I created my kids. And I will say my kids look as if they fit with my family as a Black woman. And they also look as if they fit within the Black community. And so by those 2 accounts, I am raising my girls as Black African-American girls. So, but that was me choosing my donor. It's a surreal type of event. Once you know that you're going to be doing solo parenting, and then you actually sit down at the computer, those are 2 separate steps, and you have to pause and really think about that. But then to also get out your credit card or your debit card to pay for sperm, which can run you between $1,000 and $1,200, that there is a commitment. And you have a visceral response because it's just like, oh gosh, I'm doing this. And now the rubber has hit the road. Similar to Ebony, I did ask friends who I knew respected me, if they would consider being my donor. Now, by the time a woman gets to the point where she wants to solo parent, she has already decided that I don't want a relationship right now, and that I am set on having this child on my own and raising this child on my own. Now, by the time you ask your male friends, they may not be on board with the whole solo part, but they would like to have a child with you and co-parent. And, as similar to what Ebony said, that seemed kind of messy. And so I backed out of those conversations and decided to just go the sperm bank route because I didn't want to have to co-parent. And then if I were going to co-parent with these men, I would have entered into a real actual relationship with them. Now, that being said, they are men that I respect and I care about deeply. And so I've asked them to be part of the community that will surround my child. And so that ended up being the best situation for my family. So I kind of laughed when she got to that part where she was describing, like, yes, you can get a catalog where you get the donor baby pictures, adult photos, you get a psych evaluation, you get a thorough health history as far as they know it, you get a narrative of why they're donating, why it was important for them to donate and do this altruistic and generous act. And then, if they have kids, what's their stance on family? So you get quite a bit of information when you purchase with a commercial sperm bank, but it is all quite an experience, and you get to kind of choose your adventure. And then the last thing that I wanted to address was the lack of Black sperm donors. Now, last year, the Wall Street Journal did reach out to me to do an article and a profile on me as a Black woman having to navigate the sperm banking industry and finding that there were very few Black donors. And I will link to that article down in the description. But before I get into that, if you haven't already done so, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. So when I sat down to look for my donors, there were 6 donors, Black donors, and then narrowed down to 2 that was based on my general criteria. And then I sat down to really think about, I had to make some tough choices in choosing the other half of the DNA for my child. And I'm not the only Black woman or woman of color who has also been at that crossroads of, I can't find a donor of my race or of my ethnicity, then where do I go? And if you find yourself in that situation, I do consulting. If you go to starttofinishmotherhood.com, you can book a consultation with me, and I will happily listen to your criteria. I will happily help you to get unstuck and figure out what path is the right path for your family. And I am only taking you on your journey as a person who's been there 10 years ago. I've been part of the single mother by choice community for anywhere from 10 to 12 years when I got started having my children. And I have now an 8-year-old and almost 4-year-old. So it was a while ago, but I had to sit down and I had to decide on what donor I wanted to use for donor sperm as well as donor egg. And there is a lack of donors on both ends of the spectrum. So I can talk for days about choosing sperm and about trying to get a phenotypically, that means appearance-wise, child that could look like they fit into your family, if that is your preference. Happy to do that for you. So there are a few reasons why I think that there's a lack of Black sperm donors. The first reason is, historically, as Black people, our bodies have been used for medical experimentation, and you can look in the history books, it's well documented. And so by that being the trauma that gets handed down to you, there is a real understandable distrust that Black people have toward the medical establishments. I mean, even to this day, if Serena Williams can almost die on the delivery table, we still clearly have some issues with medical bias against Black people. But typically Black and brown bodies, Black and brown body parts, Black and brown body products, right, have been used and misused. And so it's understandable that if I'm going to donate eggs or if I'm going to donate sperm, I want to know and have some deep assurance and guarantees that this would not be used for bad practices or experimentation. So I can definitely understand the reservations there. I also think that there is this stigma, and hopefully it's starting to go away, about Black men not being good fathers or being deadbeat dads. So having lots of kids and then walking away from those kids, and decent, Black men who want to create children, there's a blocker there to having someone with your DNA out there walking the streets that you are not aware of or are considered not taken care of. But I do know that when you donate to a sperm bank, you do sign papers. People who receive your sperm, we do understand that you are not the father of the offspring. We don't think of you. We actually really, really do appreciate your donations. And so if you're a Black man out there that's listening to this video, please consider donating. Black women do want to have Black children. So that being said, as a Black woman who grew up with a father in the home, who has Black men that are part of my child's village, I know that there are Black men out there who take care of their children. I know fact from fallacy. I know that there are Black men who are in the home who take their kids to daycare. I see it every day, who show up at playgrounds and plays with their kids. So I know that, and I hope that it's something that you can overcome so that you can make this really generous act. But then also, I think that there's an onus on the sperm banking industry to do right? And I think that they can improve their recruiting practices. So the sperm bank industry is no different from any other industry here in America, where it is steeped and probably built with systemic racism. Their boardrooms probably don't include a lot of people who look like me, and the recruiting teams that go out probably don't look like me either, nor are they culturally competent in how they approach getting and recruiting Black donors, right? I think that in America, we have a lack of recognition about racism and the impact that it has on a lot of our standing institutions. And so you can't fix the things that you don't acknowledge or that you're uncomfortable acknowledging. Again, it's a conversation that I am well versed in having, and I can help any institutions that are looking to be better at recruiting Black donors. But if you show up on a Howard campus, if you show up at Fisk University, right? If you show up at any one of the historically Black colleges and universities as a white person in a lab coat saying, "Can I have your sperm?" I'm pretty sure that that's going to be met with "Are you serious?" types of conversations. So I think that sperm banks can be better at being more culturally aware of the communities that they're going into to recruit from. They can definitely expand their recruiting criteria and ask themselves, is this the best way, or is this way an actual barrier, or this criteria an actual barrier to getting the donors that we are looking for, right? So we might need to reevaluate our criteria and see if the criteria itself is steeped in racial or unconscious bias. So I think that if we address those three things, the lack of trust for the medical establishment, rectify and correct the narrative that Black men are deadbeat dads, and then also have culturally competent recruiting teams in the boardrooms and hire Black people to actually go out and do this work, I think that all around we'll see a better number of Black donors available at sperm banks. And that's just my opinion. I mean, I can talk about sperm, the sperm banking industry, fertility, for days and for hours, but I will say that if you have questions about anything that was covered in this video, please drop it down in the comments. Or if there are videos that you would like for me to create to talk about the topics of single or solo motherhood, to talk about choosing a sperm donor, or just how to get started, please feel free to leave a comment down below or reach out to me at starttofinishmotherhood.com, or check me out on Instagram. Hop into my DMs at Start to Finish Motherhood. I'm Aisha, and I'm looking forward to partnering with you. Bye now.